Now on PG Podcast Network, it's time for the year-round carnival with Vince Accardi and your host, Racetrack Rolfie.
G'day, thanks for checking out Year Round Carnival. Won't be a long show with Sydney unfortunately washed out. Looks like we've got good weather there this week then, so as we build into the Spring Carnival. Can't wait. We're also going to have a good look at the trials that with some serious horses emerging. But we'll take a good deep dive into Moonee Valley now. We're going to do it with Vince Accardi from Daily Sectionals. Good morning, mate.
Good morning, Ralphie. Here we are, another great day.
Absolutely. So Moonee Valley played, well, we had a perfect sort of lead in weather-wise, but you just needed to have your head screwed on that. What does Moonee Valley always do when it's first meeting back? I'll get you to talk us through the what the overhead data shows about how Moonee Valley actually played.
Yeah, that was crazy, Ralphie. I mean, to the 800, 0.8 below of a length, pretty much benchmarked to the 600, but where the big hole was that 400-metre point, which, I don't know, is perhaps I haven't taken any notes, but just thought for a glancing moment, were we at Caulfield from years ago? I mean, -2, like that was definitely a big negative on the track, and then the rest, you know, that last 200 metres sort of balanced out to be about half length below. So if I'm just sitting back here, it was just that patch, and this then created a real carnage about where horses needed to be positioned turning for home and where would you get some edges. And I have to say, it is interesting overall. We got a bit of a spread. There were scenarios where you could lead and win, and there were scenarios where you could be midfield back and win. So that probably surprised me a little bit. And then I looked at the lane setup. Even the lane setup, you had a few horses that won that were sort of 1 to 3, and then we had a clump of horses that were winning 6, 7, and 8. Now, how much of that was impacted by that 400-metre point is probably the key.
So, if of course, if you got your data that you can get via Sizzlers, you'd know this. But just to explain it, it's almost a V shape, isn't it? Because that real dip in that before the turn, and the mid-race move means that if you lost big momentum or if you were gaining big momentum in that point, it was either going to deplete. It was going to deplete your energy either way. So you really needed to be in that the girl with a curl, not too fast, not too slow, not losing too much momentum. You needed to be ridden right in that section of the race.
Yeah, I like that part. Very true. And this, for me, again, like I thought it was a little bit of a surprise how they could just do what they did, but there must have been some sort of awareness by the riders as well.
Yeah, for sure. So let's have a look at the best performance of the day. Unsurprisingly, it was Oak Hill, and there's quite a few takeaways despite the small field here. So let's start off with Oak Hill, a horse that really impressed us since going to Team Hayes, ex-Mike Moroney. Purse there for Mike Moroney. Anthony Ferrocci still, I saw him post-race part of the celebration, so he's still looking after it. But he's a horse who's always shown promise and looks like he could be set to deliver this campaign.
Yeah, it was impressive from out the back. You look at just the sort of setup of the speed. It wasn't a thumping speed, but still, I felt it was honest. 1.3 lengths below benchmark for that first couple of 100 metres. You get into a little bit of a slowdown as soon as you hit that first curve. Oak Hill was travelling 4.6 below. Between the 8 and the 400, still travelling 4.3 below, so it didn't really make any moves. Probably was benefited in some aspects, particularly if we're like judging it against the actual winner who had to slow almost 3 lengths, and Oak Hill started that momentum building. And then
the runner-up, you mean?
Yeah, the runner-up, sorry.
Yep.
And then Oak Hill, the way it finished off that last 400 metres with a +3, just really smashed them. I look at the last 200 metres, bit of a drop-off of a couple of lengths. Could that mean that we've got another 1 length or more improvement to come just off that run? Well, the reality is everything sort of points to, possibly some sharp PB rises.
Well, no doubt. And what he's shown continuously is that big closing speed. So they're the best last 800, 600, 400 and 200 a day. So the picket fence, I like calling it.
Yep.
But I want to go to the other side of the market, which was Mornington Glory. So it was an easing favourite. I think they're both aimed at the Carline Stakes in it's 2 weeks' time. I think I've got that right, not 2 or 3 weeks' time. This will be again over 1,000 metres for the Mornington Glory fans. And like I said, soften the market. What did you see from its performance to say, well, I wouldn't write you off yet?
Yeah, the real nice part for me was pretty much what happened in those hidden fractions. Sort of topped out at around between the 4 and the 6 with a minus 1.9. Then there was some acceleration between the 4 and the 2 of around 1.6 lengths. Didn't quite break benchmark. And then there was, like, for this situation, I thought it was a bit of a nasty blowout, like minus 2 lengths over the last 200 metres, really giving a big signal that this horse is going to come on at least 2 to 3 lengths purely on conditioning. If I'm looking, at that lens of how it closed out that last 200 metres. So I can't help but feel it's going to be a big improver off that run. And it's not a big surprise when they're that sort of age, Ralphie, that they may need that one run to sort of just get them, battle ready, race ready.
So it was, 287 days between runs. Had a couple of trials over summer, and they pulled the pin. So it really adds up to a fitness blowout. 5th best last 800 and 600 a day, 11th best last 200. I would give our punters one little heads up. In 2 weeks' time, usually they put the rail out 4 metres. Now, that can greatly advantage leaders. So if you're saying the conditioning is going to really bring it on and Oak Hill's turned up fit, that could be the pincer movement equation. So let's see what happens. But you're saying that don't lose faith in this horse yet.
I definitely wouldn't be losing any faith at all because the trend's still strong off that one run. And even when you just look at that first up run as an isolated performance, Ralphie, if you compare it to the previous campaign, like it's turned up far superior. You've pretty much got to go right back to the beginning of its sort of days to sort of bring clarity around what it's actually done first up. This is one of the best runs, surprisingly, that the horse has done first up. And you know that there's big conditioning improvement coming.
All right. The other horse it was really exciting as far as a lightly race perspective was Escher going into the race. I know you were supremely confident in your race speed profiles, and it wasn't hard to be given what she posted first up in South Australia. How did she progress from here on Saturday?
Yeah, I thought it was lovely. Probably the big scenario here was didn't have to do a lot of work through that first section. It's still fair speed, minus 1.9 lengths below benchmark. A little bit of a slowdown between the 8 and the 4 of a couple of lengths. Of course, part of it's got to do with that point at the 400. But no other horse took any advantage or even attempted to take any advantage of that move and the slowdown. And it sort of left Escher still the superior horse in the split time between the 8 and the 4. Was there a big finish? Well, 2.9 lengths below benchmark last 200 metres. That's about a 2.3 length blowout, Ralphie, in terms of overall speed getting into that last 200 metres of the race. I guess I sit back and say, okay, what does that mean for this horse? It's hard not to feel that there's got to be more improvement coming as well for this horse, just off that run.
So, unsurprisingly, it was a fair bit slower than Oak Hill. Hill 0.5 lengths above benchmark, Escher minus 0.9. But I'll tell you what, given the fact there was a benchmark 74 between those races, Don't Hope 2, minus 3.4, it was significantly faster than those older horses. Yes, basic benchmark, but that's an exciting setup for it, given you're also saying that last 200 was a blowout.
It was a blowout. So no matter how you look at it, there's no way it was everything the horse was capable of over the last 200 metres.
All right, more to come there. Race 7, my head rolled off watching this. Relentless Voyager. It seemed like there was good speed on. What's the data said as far as the race shape and what he was actually able to do overall?
Yeah, well, Charterhouse has gone out 2.8 lengths above benchmark, has wound up running last. Probably gives a bit of credit to the horses run second, Nelly Lalex. And then Relentless Voyage, from our way of looking at things, Ralphie, what a great place to be. 2.3 lengths below benchmark. In many aspects in a golden position. Of course, you still have to cope with reasonable pace. I feel that the big saviour was in the mid, between the 8 and the 4. The change-up speed was actually a de-acceleration of around a length. The entire field really broke down, I felt, between the 8 and the 4, and this allowed this runner to really zoom into the race. And I was very, very taken by its last 200 metres of plus 1.4 was very strong. In fact, from looking at it from a last 200 metre perspective on the day, to sort of get in the top 10, it's not a bad effort, given that that was a 2,040 metre race.
Oh, and probably when it's easy to discuss turn of foot, but to give you an example of via the data, you've got a 3.7 length pickup last 200 metres. You've got 33rd best last 400, but the 9th best last 200 of the day. That is an actual turn of foot, isn't it?
Absolutely, and a bit of grit too in terms of sustained speed.
So the stable, Jack Turnbull, who heads, I'm pretty sure he heads the Melbourne stable. He's certainly their spokesperson afterwards, was very taken by this horse, and he said he likes using this race for their spring horses, and I think they used it with Duke de Sessa last year. Putting a benchmark marker down, if you like, early August, what type of projection could you give this horse?
I'm pretty confident this horse is going to get well above benchmark, Ralphie. I mean, the OS profile sort of gives a big signal that this horse is already somewhere between sort of half plus 2 range. So it's got definite capability, and this run here was just probably a little glimpse of what it's capable of. I'm fairly confident we're not even close to seeing what this horse can do, because when you look at that run at Flemington on the 19th of the 7th, that first section completely disrupted what's the real inside of this horse is.
All right, more to come there. It was listed as pulling up lame. I don't think it was serious, and hopefully, it was just very, very minor, because he's got a fair bit of excitement about him. I'll just finish with this from the stablemate Jenny Verboos, because it's more not just specifically this horse, but more the art of what you do here, Vince. That Jenny Verboos -4, you'd say, well, in the bin, that's nothing. But from a race shape perspective, they very rarely win from that far off the lead.
Oh, yeah, I mean, there we are. The leader's going 4.5 lengths below benchmark. This horse is pretty much giving it a 10-length head start, close to it, going 14.1. Yes, it is nice and easy at the back, but the gap's big. It's definitely outside of the elastic band. Usually, I feel that anything more than 8 is a non-winning position, particularly in staying races. You can see some cases where maybe they can get up with a little bit more, and this was one of those scenarios where this horse was genuinely a couple of lengths outside of that elastic band. I felt, again, my view here, Ralphie, was what happened in the middle. Did this really assist the horse? Given that you got that sort of couple of length penalty around that 400 metre mark, no one was taking, well, when I say no one, the lead pack horses, or the horses closest to the speed, they weren't doing a lot between the 8 and the 4. They were all trying to conserve. And this, I felt, really helped this horse a lot to get into the race. And then that last 400 metres, it made everybody else look slow with the plus 6.7 last 400. I mean, the mid-race squeeze was massive, 11.3.
Yeah, I can't help thinking there's more wins in store. I mean, this is benchmark 78, so it won't have to produce much on the clock to keep going, and it's only its lightly raced 6-year-old first prep with Kieran Maher. So I think she's heading one way and she's heading upwards. We don't tell stories on this podcast. Where if there's no stories to tell, we'll just make it a bit shorter than normal. Can't wait for the really good horses to start to emerge, and we'll be talking about them from next week onwards. City's going to have, I think they said they're going to have an 11 race program next week, or anyway, they've adjusted to make up for some of the stakes racing. So we'll be covering that, of course. We've got some really good horses starting to emerge at the trials. I've got a 4 I want to ask Vince about. That'll be our members bonus. So if you're a Group 1 member, or if you'd like to become a Group 1 member, just go via my website, racetrackralphie.com.au, click on the links, and through the Spring Carnival, each and every week we'll have a bonus podcast for our members, because we support people who support us. We're corporate bookmaker ad-free. A lot of people like complaining about corporate bookmakers. Well, We don't have any association with them. We're independent, do our own thing, and we do it via Vince Accardi's work at dailysectionals.com.au. Thanks for listening to Year Round Carnival.